Thank you, Minister. I recognize the leader of the third party. You also need to stand.
Thank you to the Minister and staff. I will, and congratulations on your appointment. I'll endeavor to ask some good questions. I'll just start by acknowledging that the resort municipality that's within the riding I represent, the resort municipality of Whistler, is celebrating its 50th birthday or anniversary this year, and the first part of my questions is focused on resort municipalities. I'll just jump straight into it. The budget and the ministry service plan made no mention of investments or dedicated funding to address challenges in resort municipalities. Can the minister describe how much funding the budget provides for resort municipalities?
Recognizing the Minister of Tourism, Arts, Culture and Sport.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. So in terms of direct targeted funding for resort municipalities, it's about $13 million in our budget currently. But to be clear though, of course, that's not the all of it. Of course, Destination BC, we do international marketing, and some of our, as the member knows, our biggest markets are places like Whistler. Happy 50th birthday to the community of Whistler, and I'm sure the mayor is watching. He told me he was last time, so hello Jack, hope you're well. No, and then of course we have our regional destination marketing work that we support, which also benefits Whistler, and then of course our ministry has other support that gets to resort municipalities, of course, whether or not it's event programs, work through BC Arts Council, gaming funds, and so on. But I'll let the member ask more specific questions. Come on.
You have control.
Yes.
Okay. I won't touch the button.
Good job. Recognizing the leader of the third party.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can the minister speak to any funding within this budget that specifically addresses housing shortages for staff and temporary foreign workers in resort municipalities?
Recognizing the Minister.
Thank you. As the Ministry of Tourism, we're also not the Ministry of Housing, but we would love to, we always support it because we know good housing policy is good tourism policy. So questions specific to how much money from which fund within housing would be best directed through that ministry. Of course, there is the MRDT, which folks can avail themselves of to support their own housing work. But probably best for housing-specific questions to go to the Ministry of Housing.
Recognizing the leader of the third party.
Thank you. As the minister knows, resort municipalities service much higher populations than they tax from, and their infrastructure ages at a faster rate due to higher use from higher population service. Can the minister outline a plan to address infrastructural and capacity concerns in resort municipalities, particularly considering the potential surge in domestic tourism resulting from U.S. tariffs?
Recognizing the Minister of Tourism, Arts, Culture and Sport.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Certainly, an increase in tourism is a good thing, but it's also, I understand, the challenge for some municipalities where they've hit the kind of the upper limits, or they feel they have, in terms of their own taxpayers, their own residents' ability to look after infrastructure that's important for them. So we actually are working, my team, with the mayors of the resort municipalities. Thank you to Mayor Crompton from Whistler for his leadership on that group. We are looking at that issue because we've recognized it as a barrier to growth for tourism communities, but also a barrier to ensuring effective infrastructure for those communities and the residents there as well. So it's on our radar. We understand it. Had a good meeting with the mayors earlier this year. They're actively engaged. They want a solution. We do as well. And I look forward to our continued good work together to address that issue, because resort municipalities bring so much to our province. They give us such an opportunity for good jobs, for tax dollars to invest in healthcare and all those other things we have needs for, arts as well, sports and so on. So I thank the member for acknowledging the role of resort municipalities and also the unique challenges that they face.
Recognizing the Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. The service plan describes this government's commitment to supporting a, quote, resilient tourism sector that is regenerative and adapting to climate change. Can the Minister please provide specifics of how they will help build a strong and sustainable ecotourism sector in resort municipalities?
Recognizing the Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Certainly climate resiliency and addressing how do you make a resort, how do you make a community, how do you make a small camping site, how do you make a hotel, all those things are important. How do you make them more sustainable, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Over the last couple of years, the ministry, working with Ministry of Energy, with Hydro, with others, actually had a climate resiliency fund, which went to the businesses to help them with planning. We helped them with, in one case, I think it's not within Whistler, but I think it's called Fish Pot Lake. I heard from folks out there who actually managed to use this funding to shift off of diesel and shift into solar for their rural campsite, for their rural cabins. Looks like a beautiful place. I've got it on my list of places to visit. But so that kind of program, I know we've done that there. We've supported programs up and down the coast and in the interior to do similar approaches. I know Whistler itself, as a resort municipality, has taken steps further to look at zero carbon and how do they do that as a municipality. So we're always looking for good ideas and to support, certainly through Industry Association, through Destination BC, Indigenous Tourism BC. We're working to help educate, to help show the opportunity, and people want it. You know, I think the businesses are keen because it helps their bottom line, but it also helps their environmental line and actually increases interest in visitors staying at those locations. I think I've talked to some operators who, when they shifted off diesel, for example, they now have people staying long-term. They now have people visiting long-term who came once, and when they sent out an email saying, oh, we've now moved to solar and got off the diesel, their business went up because people didn't want to smell the diesel fumes. They didn't want to deal with the issue of at nighttime having to hear the generators and so on. So just a small example. I know the member probably had maybe a more specific question, but they were exciting projects, and I think we need to do more of them where we can.
Recognizing the Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you. I appreciate the focus on our existing infrastructure. One aspect we're quite tuned into is the possibility of providing low carbon tourism options. One simple instance I've heard of this is encouraging people to come to Whistler, for example, for one 2-week trip as opposed to 2 1-week trips. You can imagine there's various iterations on that. This would help with BC's reputation as a destination and can build resilience against some of the reputational damage we may incur from news of wildfires. I'm wondering whether the minister can speak to any of that. I believe YVR has a low carbon initiative. Are there any initiatives underway on promoting BC as a low carbon tourism option?
Recognizing the minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I certainly know many in the business world in BC have made this one of their key calling cards in a sense when they market internationally, when they reach out to people to come be part of BC is either, in some cases, it's through things like offsets. That's not the standard, but they will market that. Certainly I know YVR, of course, Harbour Air, I believe Helijet as well. Have looked at those arguments to show, what they're doing, what they can within the means they have. Obviously, their innovations, looking at, electric float planes and those kinds of things, pretty cool stuff. But I think our regional destination marketing organizations, they're all biosphere certified, which to try and look at how they operate and how they work with their clients. But it's a growing market. People want to know that when they travel that they're not doing harm. They certainly want to, in some cases, some of our tour operators have done things like, okay, and we're going to have a tree planting as part of what we do. Or, oh, we're going to go clean up, I was telling people about cleaning up the garbage on the beaches. And, that's, preventative in a way. It doesn't solve the broader problem, but certainly our operators know that our key market is supernatural British Columbia. The beauty of our outdoors, the incredible opportunities you can have, whether it's in our forests, in our grasslands, in the interior, in the desert, and we've got a bit of everything in this province, in the oceans and on the coast, etc. So we have to treat it as our #1 asset, I think, and that's what we try to do within the work we do and educate our partners. I'd invite the member next year when the Tourism Industry Association has their conference. It's one of the key areas where there's educational aspects, where people share their successes. Both them and here in Victoria, Destination Victoria, they have their Impact Conference, and both of the conferences had a very heavy focus on sustainability, on carbon issues, on water, on how do you deal in climate emergency situations, how do you make guests feel welcome, how do you support them. They've seen all sides of this, and I think they're in a way closer to the ground on the impact of not doing anything than most, because the land base is largely what they sell and largely what they rely on for people to come back again and again. So more to do. I'm interested in this field and where we can both market but also shift behaviors in how we treat the planet that we rely on.
Recognizing the leader of the third party.
Thank you. And before I move on to other topics, I just wanted to check, my apologies, I had brought the big budget document with me when I was here before the break to ask questions. I didn't bring it, but I didn't see funding specific to RMI, Resort Municipality Initiative. In that, does that $13 million that's targeted include RMI funding, and can you tell the committee if that funding is stable for resort municipalities going forward?
Recognizing the minister.
So I just want to say yes, yes, and yes, but I guess to be more specific, yes, it's in the budget. Yes, it's $13 million. Yes, it's dedicated to the Resort Municipalities Initiative.
Recognizing the leader of the third party.
Just to follow up on maybe the fourth, hopefully the fourth, yes, can resort municipalities count on that funding for a time frame into the future that the minister can predict?
Recognizing the minister.
Thank you. I can say that it's in our budget. We support it. It supports resort municipalities. They certainly are glad that it's there, and certainly ongoing work together to continue to grow what they do. We like what they do for our province, and we want to support them.
Recognizing the leader of the third party.
Thank you to the minister. With regard to cycling tourism, and you can imagine this one comes directly from my caucus colleague, Saanich North and the Islands. Can the minister speak to any funding in this budget dedicated to cycling tourism and infrastructure, particularly considering the completion of the Salish Sea Trail Loop on Salt Spring Island?
Recognizing the minister.
Thank you. So in terms of the completion of a bike route on Salt Spring Island, that would probably be best placed to the Ministry of Transportation. We don't have a budget within the Ministry of Tourism for building transportation-related projects in that sense. But I can say that in terms of the broader question of cycle tourism, I think it is a huge opportunity for many regions in our province. We're already seeing it, of course, in many regions as it is. Certainly the members' constituency, we get a number of folks who do that route. We get, or routes, I guess I'd say. Certainly a lot of folks travel to my constituency in the West End because of cycle tourism, the desire to go around that seawall. If you haven't done it, it's not to be missed. But no, I think there is an opportunity for continued growth in cycle tourism. I know a number of the regional tourism organizations and even city-based destination marketing organizations have really tapped into that, and they're looking for opportunities. And so we're always looking for ways we can support our friends in the Ministry of Transportation, because we know that good, safe ways to get from one place to another are crucial if you want to grow tourism. And if the journey itself is part of it, as it is in cycle tourism, obviously that needs to be safe too. I once did a cycle tour from BC down to the Oregon border with California. Incredible, incredible. I ride my bike to get here most days, and I know that there is an opportunity and that there are gaps in the system, so which limit us. You know, there's incredible routes here in the capital region where we see people, and they've told me they've traveled here specifically because they can feel safe getting in and around in the region. And I think that's true for much of BC, and could be true for much more of BC. Ministry of Transportation has an active transportation program and granting stream. I think they recently announced more projects across the province for cycling, for walking, for active, for rolling, for all the different things you might need to do. So worth following up with them on that specific question.
Recognizing the leader of the third party.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Moving on to the arts, I see here a few quotes. The Minister has spoken positively in terms of the value of the arts to our society. Can the Minister speak to any new funding in the budget that will be made available to protect workers in the arts sector, especially considering the cost of living and impact from tariffs?
Recognizing the minister.
Thank you. I'd say there's been a real change in how we treat arts and culture in this province. When we formed government in 2017, we were worst in Canada for investments in arts and culture. We're now first or second, depending on which ratio and how you do the statistics. But obviously there, Quebec has been a strong supporter of culture as well. So it has been an incredible change. I just spent part of the last 2 weeks getting out, meeting arts councils, theater companies, dance groups, music groups, and the number of folks who stepped forward and just said how important that funding has been for stabilizing them. We put more supports into arts and culture after COVID than pretty much any other province because we knew that many of these groups would go under because of the impact of COVID and not having an audience, not having the ability to do the work that they did. So I'm proud of our investments. I think we've got a new permanent fund dedicated to events, the Destination Events Program. So that's a new application that folks can make. It's available now. But I hear the member. There's always demand, there's always need. But what I've heard most from the sector is they're glad that they have a steady partner, a stable partner, that they're not, and that quite frankly, that we're not doing what other governments have done in times of economic crisis, which is slash and burn the arts. They remember very strongly 2009, 2010, when the BC Arts Council budget was cut in half, down to, I think it was about $15 million. We're now over $40 million. Sorry, it was down to 10 million. It had been at 20 and went down to 10. Gaming grants, likewise, cut in half. Gaming grants crucial for community charities. So again, steady funding, steady support, because we believe very strongly in arts and culture in this province, both for its life-giving abilities, but also the economic returns and the benefits to the broader public, even healthcare. A recent study I was reading talked about how getting seniors the opportunity to engage in art at their seniors' homes led to longer lives, happier lives, less medication, less need for physical intervention, because they were engaged and the arts gave them an ability to express themselves. And I think we see that throughout our society.
Recognizing the leader of the third party.
Thank you. Speaking of the BC Arts Council, thanks for laying out the timeline. If I'm not mistaken, the government promised during this past election campaign to increase BC Arts Council funding to $50 million. If that's correct, are you able to, or is the minister able to provide a timeline on increasing that funding to that level?
Recognizing the minister.
Thank you. I think the platform pledge from the 2017 election was to double the BC Arts Council budget. So we started around 20 million, give or take, and now we're up a little bit over 40 million now. So, but when you include the investments that we've made to many different factors of the arts over the last couple of years, including our Destination Events Program and others, I'd say we've met the test. I always look for more, but I know that times are tough. Budgets are tight and it's hard. So I certainly am glad with where we've got because it's made a real difference in our communities.
Recognizing the leader of the third party.
Thank you. The Ministry Service Plan commits to improving access for, quote, historically underserved artists, and, end quote, and enhancing support for Indigenous artists. Can the minister provide examples of the funding that exists to help artists in historically marginalized communities?
Recognizing the minister.
Thank you. So of course, the BC Arts Council has its own independent board of directors, and so policy often comes up through that board, but certainly our expectation and our cooperation with them has been, and their desire as well, has been to see the faces, the realities of British Columbians reflected in the funding decisions they make. And so they've focused on ensuring that there's greater regional support across the province, looking at ensuring that when they do funding decisions that they consider that it's not all through the eye of classical music, for example, making sure that forms of music that are present in communities all over this world are also considered. Dance, for example, is not just ballet, but dancers of Dam Lahamid, Indigenous dance company funded by the BC Arts Council from up north. They're really working to ensure that those groups across the province who may not have thought of themselves getting support through a professional arts organization like the BC Arts Council realize that this is an arts council for professional and community artists, and that just because you may not have studied university to become a professional dancer in that form, you may have done that through your own community cultural teachings, and that's valuable as well. So shifting who is on juries to better reflect the broad public, the diverse nature of our province, ensuring that there's an understanding of regional differences, all of those go to help ensure that we are doing the work. They also are doing continually looking at the funding decisions and comparing them to the broad swath of our province and going, are we actually getting out to the communities? And if we're not getting applications, for example, from some parts of this province, we're making sure to go out there and help folks understand that they can apply, how to apply. We're looking at how the application process itself, because some of it had in the past been very academic, very credentials driven as opposed to community driven. And so looking at, again, how do you, art is subjective, but we need to make sure that the support we're giving province-wide goes to the great diversity in our province. And I'm proud of the work they're doing. Always room for improvement, and if the member has suggestions on other approaches we could take, always happy to hear them.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. My last question relates to Fairs, Festivals and Events Fund, which I'll note anecdotally was highly successful and valuable during the COVID period. I'll also note a 2024 election campaign promise to provide stable year-over-year funding for fairs, festivals and events. Can the Minister confirm whether the budget includes funding for the renewal of the BC Fairs, Festival and Events Fund at the 2023 level, and whether there are plans to make this a permanent program?
Recognizing the Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I'm happy that through this budget we were able to find the resources to set up a kind of a follow-along to the program the member mentions. This is now called the Destination Events Program, and its focus largely is on events similar to the previous program, but a little bit more specific to events that generate, set up a community as a destination. They're events that people come to from more than just the immediate vicinity. They stay in the hotels, they spend the money in the restaurants, in the local community. And so the Destination Events Program has been set up with applications open now. We got the information out to the Fairs and Festivals Collective, to all the folks that the members probably had correspondence from. So they know about the program now. I hope they apply. And I'm looking forward to more great festivals and events across BC. I should also say, just for those who might be watching and think that's the be-all and end-all, we also fund festivals and events through the BC Arts Council and through community gaming grants. So many of the events may have one, they may have two, they may have all of them in terms of how they get support.
Recognizing the leader of the third party.
Thank you to the minister and staff. I will yield the rest of my time to the next member.